So particularly your gram-negative versus gram-positive coverage. So as the cephalosporin generations go on from first to second to third to fourth generation, they lose gram-positive coverage and they gain gram-negative coverage. Now it's not 100% accurate in every case, there's some exceptions, but a general rule with the cephalosporins is as the generations go on from first to fourth, they lose gram-positive and they gain gram-negative. So in general, first generation is really good at covering gram-positive, not so good at gram-negative, and fourth generation has really good gram-negative, but not so good gram-positive. Fifth generation doesn't really follow these rules, is really good at both gram-positive and gram-negative, particularly really great gram-positive. But generally, first to fourth, you're going to see decreasing gram-positive and increasing gram-negative. So as the cephalosporins, like I wrote out here, go on from first to second to third to fourth, they lose gram-positive and gain gram-negative. That seems so simple, and it seems like, oh, I'll definitely remember that on the exam, but you have so many things to remember. And I remember even like having an exam question being like, wait, is the first better at gram-negative or gram-positive? So I have a really simple way to remember that. So all you think of is the podium. You know, with the Olympics, you have your first place, second place, third place, etc. This helps you remember. When you get in first place on the podium, you are super positive, you're super happy, super positive, and that's your first generation. So that helps you remember first place, first generation cephalosporins, super positive, covers positives really well. As the generations go on, as the places go on, when you're like in second place, you're still pretty positive, but you're a little bit more negative. And then third place, you're pretty negative at this point. You're not very positive at all. So that helped me remember. When you think about that, you're like, wait, is first better positive or negative? Just think about it. When you're in first place, are you positive or you're negative? You're super positive. When you're all the way in third place, you're pretty negative at that point. That's because your third gens cover negative much better, and you're much less positive. So hopefully that helps you remember. Help me. Let's move on to our first generation and get started. So first generation cephalosporins, we have cephalexin, also known as Keflex is the brand name. That's going to be your PO version. And then we have cefazolin, that's Ancef, and that's going to be your IV version of the first gens. So what do you need to know for these? As I said before, these are going to have really great gram-positive coverage. Staph, strep, it's going to cover really well. So your skin infections, really. It does have some mild gram-negative coverage, but it's mainly gram-negative, like for E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella. But the main use for your first gens, what they use best, is gram-positive organisms. Remember, you're in first place on the podium. You're super positive. You got first place. Now, high-yield indications, there's two that you need to know. Skin infections and surgical prophylaxis. So skin infections, MSSA, methicillin sensitive staph aureus. So all your skin infections involving staph, folliculitis, paronychia, etc., MSSA, be thinking of your first gens, particularly cephalexin, which is your PO med. And then surgical prophylaxis, that's going to be cefazolin, which is known as Ancef. So when you do your surgical rotations, you're going to hear this all the time. Before every surgery, they're going to say 2 grams of Ancef on board. It's basically the most commonly used antibiotic for surgical prophylaxis, and I feel like that's really the only thing you should memorize is these two things. Those are the main things for your first gens. All right, so let's move on to our second generation. That is going to be, the main ones are going to be cefoxitin, cefuroxime, cefaclor, and cefotetan. So how the heck do you remember that? I mean, there's so many different cephalosporins. So the way that I used to remember that is I thought of this. I thought of your second generations. I thought of 2 furry fox drinking tea on the floor. So you have 2 of these boxes. That helps you remember your second generation cephalosporin. Furry, they're furry. That helps you remember your cefuroxime. Fox, cefoxitin. Drinking tea, cefotetan. On the floor, cefaclor, which F-L-O-R, so you say cefaclor, it kind of sounds like floor. So 2 furry fox drinking tea on the floor, 2 second generation furry cefuroxime, fox cefoxitin drinking tea, cefotetan on the floor. They're drinking tea on the floor, and that's cefaclor. So that helps me remember the second generation cephalosporins. All right, what are they good at? So they have gram-positive coverage, but weaker compared to first gen, and they have gram-negative coverage, but broader compared to the first generations. And they pick up some coverage for Enterobacter, Neisseria, and the gram-negative, but then they have anaerobic coverage. So this is really important. So first gens had better gram-positive coverage. Your third gens, as I'll go over next, have better gram-negative coverage. So the second gens are kind of like the forgotten middle child, but the key for the second gens is their anaerobic coverage with cefoxitin and cefotetan. This is particularly good for your pelvic infections, some of your intra-abdominal infections, and this is what you're normally going to see them tested on. That's really what I focus on, because like I said, they're not great as the first gens as gram-positive. They're not as good as the third gens for gram-negatives. So they're kind of in between, but what they have unique about them is their anaerobic coverage, and that's what you're going to see come up. So they do have some indications for covering UTIs, respiratory infections, Lyme disease, second line to doxy. But for the sake of the exam, what you need to focus on is your intra-abdominal and your pelvic infections involving anaerobes like Bacteroides. That's what you're going to see when you see these covered. You're going to see your intra-abdominal and your pelvic